What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Mike, and today's video is going to be on the buy low players. Now, if you didn't watch yesterday's video, Chris posted the sell high players video. It's a very good one, and you're going to want to watch it. Now, can we get 300 likes on this video? I think it's doable because we just reached 5,000 subscribers on the channel. Thank you so much for all the love and support. There is so much love in this fantasy hockey community. And speaking of fantasy hockey community, make sure you join our Discord if you're not in there yet. There are hundreds of fantasy hockey players in there, and we're all talking fantasy hockey day in and day out. Make sure you subscribe before you leave. If you want access to all of our premium tools, our projections, our trade analyzer, or you just want to support the channel, make sure you head over to our Patreon. Without further ado, let's jump into the buy low players video. Before I give any breakdown on the players here, I just want to let you guys know that there are some advanced stats I'm going to be talking about. And if you have any questions on what they mean, just leave a comment below and I will do my best to answer. So the first buy low player for this video is Timo Meier of the San Jose Sharks, left wing and right wing eligible. So if you're looking for a winger, he is a perfect player to trade for. Now, he has a negative 3.9 goals above expected. And what that means is he is straight up the unluckiest player in the league right now. He has 42 shots on net and he has yet to score a goal. So he is at 3.9 expected goals with 0 goals to show for it, making him a perfect buy low target. He currently has 85 shot attempts, the second most in the league, behind only Roman Josi, and he is on pace for a crazy 348 shots and 184 hits. I honestly couldn't fathom this when I looked into it. The only other player that has stats like this is Brady Tkachuk, and he is a top 10 player in most leagues. So Timo Meier is at a very low value right now, and it's a perfect time to trade for him. He has a 96.63% reliability percentage. And what that means is it's a formula that I came up with over the last 3 years. I divided the total games played divided by the total games played by the team. So he has missed just 3.6% of games over the last 3 years, making him an extremely safe pick. He is currently first in the league for individual Corsi for, first in the league for individual scoring chances for, and fourth in the league for individual high danger chances for. He is producing chances at the top of the league. And not to mention, he's fifth in the league for shots per 60. Now, a couple guys that you're going to want to look for to trade is Nazem Kadri, Jack Eichel, John Tavares, Johnny Gaudreau. Now, it does depend on the league. If it's a points-only league, just goals and assists and power play points, Gaudreau's probably worth more. But I'm just trying to give you a sense of value for Timo Meier and who to trade for him. Moving on now, we have Chris Kreider of the New York Rangers. Honestly, one of my favorite players to watch in real life. He is a left winger, which is quite a full position. So if you do find yourself with a lot of wingers, it's probably not worth trading for him. But again, going back to that goals above expected statistic, he is at minus 2.6, the third most unlucky player in the league, making it a perfect time to buy low on him. Now, currently he ranks 148th in goals per 60, but he is 13th in the league for expected goals for per 60. So I think this is going to end up coming back to life. It's going to regress back to the mean once he starts putting goals in the net. He is a high danger chance machine. Now at 5-on-5 shots per 60, he's only at 2.3, an extremely low number and way below his career average at 7.9 per 60. And last season he was at 9 per 60. So this is bound to come back up. Now, another statistic here is the shot through percentage. So when he takes a shot on net, how likely is it to get through to the net? It is down 15% from his career average, meaning his shots are just being blocked more than often. Right now, he is 13th in the league for individual scoring chances for and first in the league for individual high danger chances for. So Chris Kreider is producing chances at the top of the league, and his reliability percentage is at 93%. So there is a little bit of injury concern, about little under 7%, but I don't think that's enough to be worried about him getting injured. So who to trade for? Nazem Kadri, I think a similar value. William Nylander right now, especially if you're in leagues with Leafs fans, they will love to get Nylander in a trade. John Tavares, same thing, and Johnny Gaudreau. Honestly, these are the same players that I had for Meier, but I mean, the trade value for Kreider and the trade value for Meier are relatively the same at this point in the season. Finally, to round out the forwards, you guys may not like this, but it's Sam Reinhart of the Florida Panthers. Very, very good position eligibility here. Center and right wing, I would say two of the more scarce positions. I'm personally finding that center is very full this year, but if you are looking for centers or a right winger, Sam Reinhart's your guy. So guys, again, going back to the goals above expected, a minus 1.8, so not as flashy as the other two players, but it does rank Reinhart 13th in the league. He does have 41 shot attempts this game in only 7 games, ranked 30th in the league for forwards amongst those numbers, and he currently has the 7th highest time on ice for forwards. So I really like the time on ice stat here from Reinhart. The thing is, sometimes with more time on ice means you are playing against the better competition. Sometimes when you're playing on the third line, which he was last year, you're playing a little bit less minutes, but that means a little bit less competition. So initially, when I made the projections for Sam Reinhart, I used 3-year historical data, as I did with every player in our projection model, and I projected him for 1777 average time on ice. Now, when I adjusted his minutes to his new average time on ice this season at 21.8, 79 points, 208 shots on goal, and 29 power play points was the adjusted rate. Now, this is very, very elite numbers. In the top 100 in some leagues, if you're in a strictly points league, he's in your top 50. I think he's bound to bounce back, and I think this entire Panthers team is bound to bounce back at some point. Now, we don't know the status on Ekblad's injury, but if Ekblad does come back in the second half, this team is going to go on a run. His reliability percentage that I projected here is 96.63%. Missing just a few games this season. Honestly, that could be due to rest. I didn't really look too much into it, but Reinhart does not have injury history, making him a very safe player to trade for. He's line 1, power play 1 on a very good offensive Florida Panthers team. Once they start to find chemistry, this team is going to be solid. His value is so low right now that he's being dropped in leagues, and I think this is a perfect time to trade for Reinhart. So who to trade for? Kubalik, David Krejci, Hyman, Granlund. These are players that were actually could have been picked up early in the season, and you can trade them for a player that was drafted within the top 100 to 120, making it a very good trade target. Moving on now to defensemen. I may be taking some flack for this, but Evan Bouchard looks like a great buy low target. He started the season off on the third pairing, and he really wasn't having a lot of minutes. Going into the season, I thought he was going to be first pairing and potentially power play 1. I mean, power play 1 still isn't out of the question right now, but it looks like Barrie has solidified his spot there. If Barrie goes down with injury or begins to struggle, it looks like Bouchard is the next man up. But he has now moved up to the second pairing. He's been playing 20 plus minutes in 2 of his last 3 games. And to my surprise, I went and looked at defensemen with at least 100 minutes played this season. And Bouchard is first amongst those defensemen with 11.02 shots per 60. So his shot rate, again, is elite going into this season. He had over 200 shots last year and 400 shot attempts. But now he's added some body check into his game. 8.81 hits per 60, ranking him 16th amongst defensemen, which is actually pretty high because there are a lot of very good defensemen that hit a ton. So for Bouchard, an offensive defenseman, to add some hitting to his game makes him a very valuable target. So I went and looked at some of his numbers, his on-ice numbers with the players. Obviously, you want to know how much he's been playing with McDavid. 34%, which is a little bit lower than I expected, but if he continues to play in the top 4, this number should go up. 37% with Draisaitl, who honestly looked phenomenal in that last game against Pittsburgh. So again, these numbers are a little bit lower than I thought it was going to be, but they're still very good. So I just want to reiterate that last season, how good Bouchard actually was. He was one of only 8 defensemen with 40 plus points, 200 plus shots on goal, and 100 plus blocks. So there's a very big company there. Guys like Makar, Yossi, Pietrangelo were all in that 8 defensemen. So Evan Bouchard, very good buy low target. He was arguably a drop last week, and he looks to be a solid buy low in this week. So who to trade? John Klingberg. A lot of you guys are asking me what to do with him. I didn't draft him, nor did I recommend him. But if you did draft him, he is a solid guy to trade for Bouchard. Thomas Hertl, another guy that looks to be struggling in the early going. Maybe he'll find his footing, but I do think if you get Bouchard for Hertl, it's a very good trade. Lastly, Mikael Granlund. Honestly, I don't like him. He is just such a boring fantasy player. He doesn't do much outside of getting points, but in points-only leagues, I think you can hold Granlund over Bouchard. Let me know in the comments if you have any players you want to trade for Bouchard, and I will get back to you if it's worth it or not. The other defenseman that I think is a solid buy low target is the recession-proof Brent Burns, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But Brent Burns with Carolina, I didn't really know what his deployment was going to be. A lot of people were talking about him playing power play 1 in the top 4, and that looks to be what he's doing right now. So he is currently number 1 in share of possible ice time on Carolina, meaning he is leading the team in time on ice. This is a very good thing because of how good Carolina actually is. I went and looked at some other advanced stats. 19.8% of shift in the offensive zone, which means he starts about 20% of the time in the offensive zone, which is the 11th most amongst defensemen. This is something you want to see from a defenseman who is very offensive. So that means he's not spending a lot of time in the defensive zone, but actually spending more time in the offensive zone. He is currently 6th amongst defensemen in shot attempts with 44, and he has a 65% on-ice Corsi for percentage, which is 4th in the league, meaning when Brent Burns is on the ice, they are outshooting their opponents 65% of the time. He is one of just 6 players, and this is what I mean about recession-proof. One of just 6 players with a 100% reliability percentage, meaning Brent Burns has not missed a game over the last 3 seasons. Now, some of you may thinking, and I thought about this too, he just got lucky and didn't end up having COVID, and that honestly could be a thing. There is quite a few players that were below 100%, and that could be due to COVID. Players missing a couple of games, players missing longer times because of COVID, but over the last 3 years, he is one of just 6 players with a 100% reliability percentage, making him pretty much recession-proof. Anyways, Carolina has a 70% win rate in 2021. I prefer players that are on very good teams. If teams are winning games, that means they're playing a lot in the offensive zone. They're scoring more goals than their opponents. And overall, they're just winning their games. And you want to take players that are on this team. Last year as well, Carolina had the 3rd highest goals for percentage. So Brent Burns looks like a great time to trade for him. Now, you may be saying he is not a buy low target right now. And I had this conversation with Chris. I'm going through my leagues. He's 226 in one of my leagues, 117, 116, 105. I think Brent Burns can easily be a top 75 player, and he could end up at his ceiling as a top 50 player. So this is a perfect time to trade for Burns before this Carolina team gets really hot. Some players to trade for him, I honestly think you can move Gabe Vilardi for Brent Burns. Some of you may think this is outlandish, but I do think it's possible. Shane Gostisbehere, who is honestly ranked top 50 in most of my leagues, he's just off to a really hot start. But again, I prefer players on good teams, and he's on a bad team. If you can get Burns for Gostisbehere, that's a huge win for you. And lastly, Dylan Larkin off to a good start, but again, does have some injury history, and this Detroit team doesn't look too good in the early going. So I think Brent Burns is a solid buy low defenseman in the early going. Moving on now to goalie. And guys, if you think I'm talking a little bit too much, let me know in the comments. I'm doing my best to try and sell you on these players and why I think they're all very good buy low targets. But the first goalie I want to begin with here is Ilya Sorokin. It is currently 10:17 on October 26th. And the Islanders are playing the Rangers right now, so knowing my luck, it's going to be a 40 save shutout for Sorokin, and you guys are going to say he's not a buy low target. But as I'm making this video, he kind of is. 1-3, a 284 goals against average, and a 908 save percentage. In his career, he is 40-27 with a 236 goals against average and a 923 save percentage. So his numbers are well below his career average, and they're likely to regress back to the mean. Now, 2021, Sorokin was an absolute stud, and the Islanders were actually a bad team. A 960 save percentage on unblocked shots, 2nd in the league behind only Shesterkin. A 925 save percentage, 2nd in the league, only behind Shesterkin. A 240 goals against average, 4th in the league, and a 787 high danger save percentage, 2nd in the league behind only John Gibson. Now, the only other goalie in the top 5 for these stats is Igor Shesterkin. Sorokin is in elite company, and I honestly think you can grab him for not a lot of value right now. Now, who would I trade for him? Sam Bennett, Connor Hellebuyck, Brian Rust. And some of you may be saying, oh my God, no way I'm moving Hellebuyck. I think Hellebuyck is a perfect sell high target right now with a 220 goals against average. Last season, he was at 280. The season before, 270. Hellebuck's off to a good start, and honestly, I would much rather Sorokin, who is an extremely high floor goaltender. Now, before I run out of breath here, I want to get into the last goaltender trade target, Thatcher Demko of the Vancouver Canucks. Some of you may be saying this Canucks team is going to sell. Personally, I don't think so. They committed a bunch of money to their new coach, and they signed Kuzmenko. They won the sweepstakes. this is their year. They're going to try and bounce back. We'll see what happens. I think Demko is an extremely, extremely good buy low target. Funny enough, he was actually dropped in my big league, and I'm definitely going to be adding him because there's saves as a category, which is where he does the best work. So right now he has a minus 5.4 goals saved above expected, which makes him the third most unlucky goalie. 24 goals against so far this season and an 18.57 expected goals against. So he's very unlucky right now. It's going to regress back to the mean, and Demko is going to get hot at some point. Now, he's a very safe goalie, just one of 6 goalies with 100 plus starts since 2020. And in that time, he has faced the third most shots. Again, very similar to Hellebuck, which is where I value Demko. Obviously, I think Sorokin's more valuable than both of them. But in 2020 so far, he has faced the most shots, 187 shots against. And he's honestly just a workhorse of a goalie. You're going to get a goalie that's going to have 60 plus starts going into the season. Very low injury risk. And if Vancouver doesn't end up selling and this team ends up bouncing back because they're very strong on paper, they have the right team to make a run, Demko is going to end up as a very, very good buy low target. Who to trade for him? Matt Barzal, one of the more frustrating fantasy players. Jake DeBrusk, who you may have added on waiver wire, and some fantasy managers in your league might want to add him. Jeff Petrie, someone who's just off to a pretty hot start, as are the entire Penguins team. And maybe you're able to add him on free agency. So Ad is not a player. He is the free agency, and you may be able to get Demko there. Thank you for watching the Buy Low Players video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one.